Reporting live from the Senate Ferguson Building in Washington, D.C. As you can see, the Senate has just returned from a long day of Whitewater hearings. Today's hearing centered on the former communications representative from the White House, Mr. Garrod.
Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest, Hillary Rodham Clinton. How are you today, Hillary?
Oh, thank you, Scott, for the generous introduction. I'm glad to be here.
Okay, now let's get on to the questions. What was your level of involvement in the Rose Law Firm Madison Guarantee deal?
Well, I don't recall.
Yes, McDougal said the firm was hired after Bill Clinton complained about family finances.
Yes, interesting question. Okay, well, let me try to explain this one. See, my husband was under a lot of stress, and he was really under, I don't recall.
I see. Well, in November of 1988, you asked McDougal for power of attorney over Whitewater affairs. Was this granted?
I do not recall.
How do you feel after all of these allegations have been thrown against you?
Well, I think this is slanderous. I just wish that Mr. D'Amato guy would go away, because my husband and I, we have been working very hard to try to be good people, and he keeps harassing us.
Thank you. We'll be back after these messages.
All right, Stephen, get in there. Thank you, and welcome back to our continuing interview with the First Lady, Mrs. Hillary Rodham Clinton. Mrs. Clinton, the documents that were recently found, we would like to know exactly where they were found.
That's a very interesting question. Very, very timely, as a matter of fact, because these records were found in a little library that's right off my office.
Okay, now what exactly was contained in these documents?
Well, this is a very important part of Mr. D'Amato's hearings at the moment. These documents actually happen to be my billing records for when I was working with Rose Law Firm on the Madison Guarantee case. I think clearly shows that I had no involvement with anything that was more than just a little conference.
Very interesting. But why did it take so long for these documents to be recovered?
Well, these documents were in my library right next to my office. Now, it said they were found in a box there by one of the cleaning persons, or actually one of my secretaries, and that she was going to file them, but misplaced them for a couple of months.
Mrs. Clinton, is this delay, as you called it, what causes some people to believe there was an obstruction of justice?
Well, I don't personally see it, but some people keep trying to hurt me.
And finally, Mrs. Clinton, what makes Whitewater different from Watergate?
Well, my husband has done nothing wrong.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Clinton, and we'll be right back. Thank you, and welcome back to our continuing coverage of our interview with the First Lady, Mrs. Hillary Rodham Clinton. Mrs. Clinton, in regards to Vince Foster, just how well did you know him, and what were his regular functions around the White House?
Well, Vince Foster was an aide to my personal counsel. He was a friend from way back in Arkansas, and we brought him when we moved into the White House. And he was very helpful and helped me not only professionally, but personally. He was a good friend, and we really miss him. It hit quite hard on the president when we found out that he had committed suicide.
Mrs. Clinton, what exactly was your first reaction, and what did you do after you found out that Vince Foster had committed suicide?
Well, there was actually a lot of confusion in the White House at the time, and this is what leads to many of the problems, because people didn't know what to do, and probably things were done in the wrong manner, not following certain procedures that we probably should have.
Mrs. Clinton, my last question for you this evening is, Could you describe and explain the phone calls that happened between the White House and someplace in Arkansas very shortly after Vince Foster's suicide?
I cannot recall.
Thank you, Mrs. Clinton. This concludes our interview with First Lady Hillary Rodham Clinton. Jeopardy from unsound lending practices. Don't you have a microphone? SNL is in jeopardy. Okay, ready? Your SNL is in jeopardy from unsound lending practices.
I wouldn't say that.
Are you recording? Yes. Your SNL is in jeopardy from unsound lending practices.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to bring you our very own interview with New York Senator Alphonse D'Amato. Welcome, Alphonse.
It's nice to be on your show here today. Thank you.
Senator D'Amato, who's been testifying lately and what have they had to say?
Well, very recently, we've been looking into a man by the name of Mark Guerin. Now, he was the director of White House communications early in the Clinton administration. Now, he took very vigorous notes during his time there, and we've been reading them back to him and seeing if he can sort of remember what he was doing.
That's very interesting. But who is upcoming in the Whitewater hearings?
I'm hoping that we can get Michael Erickson, and I'm also, I'm always open for Hillary to come on down.
So just what do you think it would take to get Hillary to testify?
Well, I think it would take a subpoena. A giant red subpoena. The subpoena that could bring down the White House. Oh, yes, it'd take a subpoena, a giant red subpoena, the subpoena I've been waiting for years. Oh, it would take a subpoena, a giant red subpoena. I'm gonna get it.
A mistress, a wife. Oh, yes, it takes a woman, a fragile woman, to bring you the sweet things in life.
Welcome back to our...
5:30, I was gonna run downstairs so you can see if all the kids got out. Oh, well, go.
What kids?
For his regular functions around the White House.
He used to bathe me personally.
Who can we look forward to seeing sitting across from you in the upcoming days of the investigation?
Well, I'm hoping to get somebody who doesn't talk like this. Hello, Jolly. I'm Carol Channing, and I'm here to say that I love you all.
One of the little-known facts about this scandal. Well, I don't think you'd say that now, would you?
Mrs. Clinton, I'm an asshole.
And I have that on film.
I'm hoping not to talk like a woman.
You had it. That was it. Mrs. Clinton, my last question for you is... I completely forgot.
I will not continue the interview without me seeing myself. I have to do that. It's something in my system. It's chemical. Continuing coverage. Thingy. Hey, how you doing, folks? I love you. I just love you. I love y'all. I'm Dick Smythe.